Your father may still be alive.
What do you mean?
I never said your father was dead.
Then where is he?
That is what you must find out.
Leave them alone! You still want to protect them? If you want Ude, you will have to come through me first. Run!
Your father stood where you are standing now 12 years ago. He was given the same choice, and he failed. Then tell me what happened to him, Ude said. I came here to save my mother, but I will not leave this palace without knowing the truth about my father. The courtyard became completely silent. The king looked at Ude for a long moment. Then he slowly walked toward him. You want the truth? He asked. Ude nodded. Then you must be ready to hear something that may break your heart. Ude did not move. He had already spent 12 years living with questions. Whatever the truth was, he wanted it. The king turned toward the palace guards and ordered them to close every entrance to the courtyard. Nobody was allowed to leave. Nobody was allowed to enter. Then the king told Ude to follow him. Ude walked behind him through a long palace corridor. The place was quiet now. The sound of their footsteps echoed against the old walls. As they walked, Ude noticed several paintings hanging on the walls. Some showed former kings. Others showed great warriors and important men from the old Ahaba kingdom. Then, Ude stopped. One painting caught his attention. He knew the face. It was his father. Ude stared at the painting in disbelief. His father was standing beside the former king, wearing the same wooden pendant Ude now held in his hand. For a moment, Ude could not speak. The king looked back at him. Yes, he said quietly. Your father once served this palace. Ude stepped closer to the painting. But my mother told me he was only a farmer. The king looked away. Your mother wanted you to live. Those words struck Ude deeply. Why would knowing the truth about his father put his life in danger? What had his father done? And why had everyone kept the truth from him? The king continued walking. Eventually, they reached an old room hidden behind the main palace. The door was covered with dust. The king opened it. Inside were old records, broken wooden boxes, clothes, and several documents that had not been touched for years. Ude looked around. Then he saw it, a piece of old cloth, the same symbol that had appeared on his father's pendant. Ude picked it up. His hands began to shake. This belonged to your father, the king said. Ude looked at him. Then why was it hidden here? The king did not answer immediately. Instead, he told Ude that 12 years earlier, his father had discovered something terrible. The king's challenge was not simply a competition. It had been used by certain people inside the palace to control desperate men who came looking for money. Men who needed help, men who were willing to risk everything to save the people they loved. Ude remembered why he had entered the palace, his mother, the medicine, the 3 gold pieces. Suddenly, he understood why his father's story felt so painfully familiar. His father had been desperate too, and someone had used that desperation against him. The king then showed Ude an old record. It contained the names of the men who had taken the challenge over the years. Many had failed, some had disappeared, but beside Ude's father's name was a strange mark. Ude asked what it meant. The king finally told him. His father had not failed because he was weak. He had failed because he refused to obey an order. Ude stared at the record. What order? The king looked directly at him. He was ordered to betray someone. Ude's face changed. His father had refused, and that refusal had cost him everything. According to the record, Ude's father had discovered that someone inside the palace was secretly stealing from the royal treasury. But the thief was not an ordinary servant. The person had powerful friends, people who could hide the truth, people who could make another man's disappearance look like an accident. Ude's heart began beating faster. Who was it? He asked. The king remained silent. Then he placed another document in Ude's hands. Ude opened it. There it was, a name. The same name he had seen earlier, Samson. Ude stepped backward. For years, Samson had been around his family. He had spoken kindly to his mother. He had helped Ude when he was younger. He had even spoken about his father as though he respected him. But now his name was appearing everywhere, inside the palace, inside his father's records, and in the middle of a secret that had destroyed his family. Ude wanted to believe there had to be another explanation. Maybe Samson's name was there for another reason. Maybe he had been helping his father. Maybe he was innocent. But then the king told him something that made the room feel suddenly smaller. Your father trusted Samson. Ude looked at him. And Samson betrayed him. The words cut deeper than Ude expected. He sat down slowly. His father had trusted the wrong person, and because of that, he had never returned home. But the king was not finished. He told Ude that his father had managed to hide one important piece of evidence before he disappeared. Something that could expose everyone involved. Something that had never been found, until now. Ude looked around the room. What is it? The king pointed toward the old wooden chest. Ude opened it. Inside was nothing but an old piece of cloth and a small wooden box. He opened the box. There was a letter. The paper was old. The edges were damaged, but the handwriting was clear. Ude recognized it immediately. It was his father's handwriting. His eyes filled with tears. For the first time in 12 years, Ude was holding a letter written by the father he had believed was gone forever. He began reading. The letter said that if anything happened to him, his son must never trust anyone who came asking about the royal challenge. Ude stopped reading. He looked at the king. The letter continued. It said that the truth was not inside the palace alone. The truth was also hidden in his own home. Ude's heart sank. His mother knew something. Suddenly, many things began to make sense. Why had she always refused to talk about his father? Why had she become frightened whenever someone mentioned the palace? Why had she never allowed Ude to search for answers? She had not been hiding the truth because she hated him. She had been hiding it because she was afraid that the same people who took his father would come for her son. Ude folded the letter carefully. Then he asked the king the question that had been waiting inside his heart. Is my father dead? The king looked at him. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he answered, I never said your father was dead. Ude's eyes widened. The room suddenly became silent. What do you mean? The king turned toward the door. Because 12 years ago, your father disappeared from this palace. Ude stood up. But you just told me he was taken. I told you he disappeared. Ude stepped closer. Then where is he? The king looked at him with a painful expression. That is what you must find out. Ude could hardly breathe. His father might still be alive. After 12 years, there was suddenly a small light inside the darkness.
If you enjoy emotional African stories and African folktales, family stories, subscribe to Mekwe's Folktales and join us for more stories from Africa.
But before Ude could ask another question, a loud cry came from outside. Then another. The palace guards began shouting. Something was happening in the courtyard. Ude ran toward the door. The king followed. When they stepped outside, they saw people running in every direction. The royal messenger was lying on the ground. The medicine Ude had been given was gone, and destiny was nowhere to be found. Ude immediately remembered the warning. He had trusted the wrong person. But then something even more frightening happened. A palace guard came running toward the king. He was breathing heavily. Your Majesty, the king turned. The guard pointed toward the road leading away from the palace. Someone has escaped. Who? The king asked. The guard looked at Ude. Then he said the words that made Ude's blood run cold. Samson. Ude stood frozen. Samson had escaped. The man whose name appeared in his father's records. The man who had warned him about the palace. The man who knew the truth. And now he was gone. But there was something else. The guard handed the king a small piece of cloth. Ude recognized the symbol immediately. It was the same symbol that belonged to his father. The king looked at Ude. Your father left that symbol behind 12 years ago. Ude took it from his hand, his eyes filled with tears. If Samson had escaped with the truth, then Ude had only one choice. He had to find him. But before he could leave the palace, a messenger arrived from Ude's village. The man's face was filled with fear. He looked at Ude. Then he spoke. Your mother is getting worse. Ude's entire body went cold. The medicine was gone. His mother was dying. His father might still be alive. Samson had escaped. And somewhere between all these secrets was the truth Ude had spent 12 years searching for. Ude looked toward the road. Then toward the palace. Then back toward his village. For the first time, he realized that saving his mother and finding his father were no longer two separate journeys. They were connected. And the person standing between both of them was Samson. Ude ran. He ran out of the palace. He ran down the old road toward home. But he did not know that someone was already waiting for him there. Someone who knew the truth. Someone who had been silent for 12 years. And someone who was finally ready to tell Ude what really happened on the night his father disappeared. Mother, please, open your eyes. Ude called out his mother. Ude, is that you? His mother answered. Yes, mother, I am here. I brought the medicine. Ude, you must listen to me before it is too late. So, Ude knelt beside his mother and carefully gave her the medicine. For a few moments, nothing happened. He watched her face. He listened to her breathing. Then, slowly, her eyes opened. Ude almost broke down. He had been running through the village with one thought in his heart. Please let me get home before she dies. And now she was looking at him. But there was something strange in her eyes. She was afraid not of death, not of the sickness. She was afraid of what Ude had discovered. Mother, Ude said softly, I know about the palace. Her face changed, he continued. I know father went there 12 years ago. Miracle closed her eyes. Ude's heart sank. He already knew. She had been hiding something. But why? What could be so terrible that a mother would rather carry the pain alone for 12 years? Ude took the old pendant from his pocket and placed it beside her. I found this inside the palace. Miracle stared at it. Then tears rolled slowly down her cheeks. My son, she whispered, you should never have gone there. Ude held her hand. Why? She looked at him. Because your father did not disappear by accident. Ude froze. What happened to him? Miracle struggled to sit up. Her voice was weak. But the words were clear. Your father discovered that Samson was working with people inside the palace. Ude's heart dropped. So it is true. Miracle nodded. Samson betrayed him. For years, Ude had believed Samson was one of the few people his family could trust. Now that memory felt like a lie. Miracle continued. Your father discovered that the royal challenge was being used to trap poor men. They promised them gold. They made them desperate. And when those men discovered too much, they were silenced. Ude could hardly believe what he was hearing. What happened to father? Miracle looked toward the doorway. Your father found out that Samson was helping them, but before he could expose them, they came for him. Ude's eyes filled with tears. Did they kill him? Miracle shook her head. No. Ude stared at her. Then where is he? Miracle's lips trembled. He escaped. Ude stopped breathing for a moment. His father was alive? After 12 years? How do you know? Because he came back. Ude's eyes widened. When? The night he disappeared. Miracle told him that his father had returned home badly injured. He had been bleeding. He could barely walk, but he was alive. He had only stayed for a short time. He had held Ude when he was still a young boy. Then he had told Miracle something she could never forget. If he stayed, the people hunting him would find them. So he left. He promised he would return when it was safe, but he never did. Ude's tears finally fell. All those years, he had thought his father had abandoned them. He had blamed him. He had wondered why a father could leave his wife and child behind. Now he understood. His father had not left because he did not love them. He had left because he believed leaving was the only way to keep them alive. But there was still one question. If his father was alive, where had he gone? Miracle reached beneath her pillow. She pulled out a small folded piece of cloth. Inside was a letter. Ude opened it. The handwriting was unmistakable. His father's. The letter contained only a few lines. His father said that if Ude ever found the pendant, he should follow the old river road outside Ahaba. There, he would find someone who knew where he had gone. Ude looked at his mother. Why didn't you tell me this before? Miracle began to cry. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? That the moment you started looking for him, they would come for you too. Ud looked down at the letter. Then he remembered something. Samson had escaped from the palace, and Samson knew about the old river road. Could Samson be going there too? The thought sent fear through Ude's heart. He stood up. I have to go. Miracle grabbed his hand. No. Mother, I must find father. You may lose your life. Ude looked at her. And if I do nothing, what happens? Miracle had no answer. Sometimes, life gives a person two painful choices and asks them to choose the one they can live with. Ude chose the road. He stepped outside, but before he could leave, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. John was standing at the doorway. His face was serious. I heard everything. Ude looked at him. Then you know where I am going. John nodded. I do. Will you come with me? John looked toward the darkening sky. Yes. The two men left the compound together. Neither knew that they were being watched. From behind a distant wall, a figure stood quietly. It was Samson. He had returned to the village, and he had heard enough. He knew Ude had discovered the truth. He also knew Ude was going to the river road. Samson turned and disappeared into the darkness. Meanwhile, Ude and John continued walking. The old road was quiet. The wind moved gently through the trees. For a while, neither man spoke. Then John asked the question Ude had been avoiding. "What will you do if your father is alive?" Ude looked ahead. "I will bring him home." "And if he does not want to return?" Ude stopped. That question hurt, but he answered. "Then I will at least tell him that his son never stopped waiting." They continued walking, and perhaps that was the most painful part of the entire journey. Ude was no longer searching for money. He was searching for a father he had spent half his life believing was gone, a father who might still be somewhere under the same sky. But there was another question waiting. What if the person who knew where Ude's father was had been hiding the truth all these years? As they approached the river road, they saw something lying beneath an old tree. John stopped. Ude moved closer. It was a small wooden box. Ude recognized it immediately. It was the same kind of box his father used to keep important things. He opened it. Inside was another letter, but this one was not from his father. It was from Samson. Ude read the first line. His face suddenly changed. The letter said, "Ude, if you are reading this, then I have failed to stop you from finding the truth." John looked at him. "Keep reading," Ude continued. The letter revealed that Samson had not betrayed Ude's father for money. He had been forced. Someone had threatened his own family. Someone more powerful than Samson had ordered him to help the people inside the palace. But Samson had made one mistake. He had helped Ude's father escape. That was why Samson had been hunted too. Ude stared at the letter. So Samson was not the real enemy. He had been trapped. But then who was behind everything? The answer was in the final line. Ude read it slowly. "The person you are looking for is closer to you than you think." Ude looked around. John's face became serious. They both heard a sound behind them. A branch snapped. They turned. Nobody was there. Then another sound came from the river. Ude moved closer, and suddenly, through the darkness, they saw a man standing on the opposite side of the river. The man was old. His clothes were worn. His body looked weak, but there was something about his face. Something Ude had seen in an old painting. Something he had seen in his dreams. Ude could not move. The man looked directly at him. Then he whispered a name. Ude. Ude's heart stopped. Only one person had ever called him that way. His father. Ude took one step forward, then another. Tears filled his eyes. "Father?" The man did not answer. He simply stood there, and just before Ude could reach him, a loud sound came from behind. Someone had followed them. Ude turned. Samson was standing on the road. But Samson was not alone. 3 armed men stood behind him. John immediately pulled Ude back. The old man across the river disappeared into the darkness. Ude screamed his father's name, but there was no answer. The men began moving toward them. Samson looked at Ude with pain in his eyes. Then he said something that Ude would never forget. "Run." And suddenly, the peaceful river road became a place of danger. Ude and John turned and ran. Behind them, the men followed. But Ude's mind was no longer thinking about the men. He had seen his father after 12 long years. He was alive. And if Ude wanted to see him again, he would have to survive the night.
If you were Ude, after waiting 12 years for your father, would you still keep searching for him? Tell us what you would do. And if Ude's journey has touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. The truth he is about to find may change everything.
Keep running. We cannot let them catch us. I just saw my father, John. He is alive. Ude said. John replied, "Then keep moving, Ude. If he is alive after 12 years, we are not losing him tonight. Run. Leave them alone. If you want Ude, you will have to come through me first." Samson answered the jeng. Ude and John ran through the darkness as the 3 men chased them from behind. Branches struck their faces. The road was narrow. Their breathing became heavy. But Ude kept running. He had just seen his father. After 12 years of pain, his father was alive. And he was not going to lose him again. "Keep running!" John shouted. Ude looked back. The men were getting closer. Then, suddenly, Samson appeared from the side of the road. He stepped directly into the path of the 3 men. "Leave them alone!" The men stopped. One of them laughed. "You still want to protect them?" Samson stood his ground. "I have protected this secret for 12 years. Tonight, it ends. Ude and John stopped behind him. For the first time, Ude understood. Samson had not come to hurt them. He had come to protect them. The three men moved toward Samson. But before they could reach him, several palace guards appeared from the darkness. The king had followed them. The men tried to escape. They were quickly surrounded. And just like that, the chase was over. The same palace that had once been filled with secrets was now filled with witnesses. The king looked at Samson. "Tell him everything." Samson lowered his head. Then he turned toward Ude. "I am sorry." Those two words carried 12 years of pain. Samson told Ude the truth. His father had discovered the corruption inside the palace. He had discovered that powerful men were using desperate people for their own gain. When he tried to expose them, they came after him. Samson had been forced to help them because they had threatened his family, but when the moment came, Samson could not betray Ude's father completely. He secretly helped him escape. He had then spent years protecting the secret. But he had never been able to bring Ude's father home. Ude looked at him. "Where is he?" Samson pointed toward the river. "Follow me." They crossed the old river path. The moonlight touched the water. Then they saw the old man again. He stood beneath the large tree. Ude stopped. The man slowly turned. Their eyes met. Neither moved. 12 years disappeared in one painful second. Ude's lips trembled. "Father?" The old man began to cry. "My son," Ude ran. His father opened his arms. They held each other tightly. Ude cried like the little boy who had spent years waiting at the doorway. His father held him as though he never wanted to let go again. "I thought you were dead," Ude whispered. "I wanted to come home," his father said through his tears. "Every single day." Ude pulled away and looked at him. "Then why didn't you?" His father touched his face. "Because I believed staying away was the only way to keep you and your mother alive." Ude could not hold back his tears. All the anger he had carried for 12 years disappeared. There was nothing left to blame, only a father and son who had finally found each other again. Then John smiled. For the first time in a long while, Ude smiled too. The king stepped forward. He had heard everything. He ordered the guards to arrest the men who had been hiding the truth. He also ordered a full investigation into the people who had abused the king's challenge. The old system was ended. No desperate man would ever again be used as bait for another person's greed. The king then turned toward Ude. "You came here looking for 3 pieces of gold." Ude smiled faintly. "Yes, your majesty. You found something worth far more." Ude looked at his father. His smile grew. "Yes." The king ordered the palace servants to bring the medicine. Then he gave Ude something else, 20 gold pieces. Ude looked surprised. "But I thought I lost the reward." The king smiled. "You passed the test before you knew there was a test." John laughed. Even Samson smiled. For the first time, the palace did not feel frightening. It felt like a place where a wrong had finally been made right. Days passed. Miracles slowly became stronger. The medicine worked. The people of Ahaba soon learned the truth about what had happened inside the palace. Some were angry. Some were shocked, but many were grateful that the secret had finally been exposed. Samson confessed everything he knew. The men responsible were brought to justice, and the king's challenge was changed forever. From that day onward, it was no longer used to take advantage of desperate people. It became a true test of courage, honesty, and compassion. As for Ude, he never forgot the lesson. He had entered the palace looking for 3 gold pieces. He had walked through fear. He had discovered a secret. He had found his father, and he had saved his mother. But perhaps the greatest thing he discovered was this. Sometimes, what looks like the end of your story is only the beginning of the truth. Months later, Ude's father sat outside their home one quiet evening. Ude sat beside him. Miracle brought them food. John arrived with a wide smile. And Samson came carrying something behind his back. Ude looked at him. "What are you hiding?" Samson smiled. "Something for your mother." He brought out a large basket of food. Miracle laughed. "You people finally remembered that I am the one who almost died in this story." Everyone laughed, even Ude's father. The laughter filled the compound, and for a moment, nobody remembered the palace. Nobody remembered the chase. Nobody remembered the 12 years of pain. They simply enjoyed being together. Moral lesson of the story. Sometimes, the truth takes a long road to reach us, but that does not mean we should stop searching for it. Ude spent 12 years believing that his father had abandoned him. He carried anger, confusion, and pain, yet when the opportunity came to discover the truth, he chose to face it, even when the truth frightened him. But the story teaches us something deeper. Not every person who leaves you has stopped loving you. Sometimes, people disappear because they are fighting battles you know nothing about. Ude's father stayed away because he believed his absence was the only way to protect his family. Miracle kept the truth hidden because she was afraid of losing her son too. Even Samson, who appeared connected to the betrayal, was carrying a secret born from fear and sacrifice. This teaches us not to judge someone's silence or absence before understanding the pain behind it. And perhaps the greatest lesson is this: when you love someone deeply, don't allow fear to make you give up too early. Ude went to the palace looking for 3 pieces of gold. He came home with something far more valuable: his mother's life, his father's embrace, his family's happiness, and the truth he had spent 12 years searching for. Sometimes, the road that breaks your heart is also the road that leads you back to what you thought you had lost forever. If this story interests you, please stay with us for more African stories where every ending leaves a lesson. Thank you for staying with Mekwe's Folktales. See you on the next story.